So these guys are about a week away from butcher, and we're trying to slow down their protein intake to keep them happy and healthy. We feed them their protein ration in the morning, and then they get to muck out the grass all day. Then we move them again at night up onto this fresh grass, and then they get a whole nether salad bar buffet that'll take them through till the morning. And then as we pull them off, you'll see how much of that grass that they eat. If you'll notice how clean their feet are, one of the reasons that we move them every 24 hours is to keep the pathogens from traveling up through their feet, from standing in a pile of their own manure. So they're going to go onto this fresh grass and get clean feet. It's one of the reasons that we don't have to feed any kind of medicated feed. These are just happy, healthy birds. Babe, you want to help me move this one? Good? Yeah, let's do it again. Ready? It's 3 different clovers: trefoil, flax, fescue, alfalfa, and amaranth. So if you look behind as to just how well they clear that off, and then all the manure that they dropped back on it, about 11 days from now, it'll look like this again. No synthetic fertilizers, no reseeding, just pops right back up. All that hot nitrogen just shot right to the ground, and the grasses just come right back. So this stuff is all designed to where one person can do it, but this is kind of a family affair. We like doing chores together. Makes it go a lot faster. Almost doesn't seem like work. Okay. So when we manage it with a mower and get all this stuff to bloom out and to seed, when it's short, it allows us to pull it across and also give airflow to the chickens. We've had some years where, like when we were learning what we were doing, we'd have grasses this tall, trying to tug these things across that tall grass, and then the chickens would overheat because there's no airflow going in there. So figuring out when to mow and when to get the stuff to sprout, all the good protein is right here in the seed heads and in the blooms. Plus they just think it's delicious. It's pretty cool that they get to be chickens. They're the same breed that you would find in a big Tyson chicken house, except they won the lottery by living with us. They get sun, shade, good food, fresh water, exercise. They get to move around, no manure. The taste and the texture definitely comes through. And then in return, we don't have to spend any money on synthetic fertilizers because they do all that for us. Organic apple cider vinegar goes in their fresh water twice a day. It's just a supplement, helps with their digestion, helps keep them healthy. A lot of people have heard that you can drink apple cider vinegar just for your own health benefits. Chickens are no different. Helps them with the heat, helps them with the stress. And we always stick with the organic stuff. Does it make a difference? I don't know. It makes us feel better because it's the expensive organic stuff. So the pasture grass we manage with the meat birds and also a mower, like I talked about, making it easy to get the things moved around. So our layers, we don't manage the pasture grass. We just separate it with this electric fence right here. And you can see what these grasses would look like if you just let them go. Does a couple things. It gives the birds cover and they get to be chickens. It's pretty neat to run around that stuff. It's like, you know, they make the little tunnels, all the seed heads are up high, they get to jump up, and it brings in a ton of bugs. A lot of grasshoppers, a lot of ladybugs, all sorts of stuff. So the layers, you know, they really get to be layers. That's just the difference on managing the different grasses. Eventually the layers will knock all this stuff down, so we don't really need to worry about it. And they do their own fertilizing and scratching around. So they're doing something healthy for the grasses that we put them on, but it keeps them out of this stuff because they will dig holes and want to nest or try to find something for a dirt bath, which later on leaves little holes that allows predators to climb underneath. So there's a whole process here that there's reasons why we do things the way we do. Most of it's based on bad experiences that we've had to overcome. This is where the layers live. That's their coop. And they've got this whole run right through here. More grass than they know what to do with. On years that we're running more layers, we just make a bigger spot. We just pull it out a little bit further. If we have fewer layers, mathematically we can figure out, okay, they only need this much, so we'll just shorten it up. Just depends on what we're doing that year. These are Cornish cross, but these are true pasture raised. You're looking at the pasture, this is what they live on. This is not hype, there's no sleight of hand here. You're seeing the work that it takes to move them to fresh grass every day. The reason that they're in those tractors there is we get to manage their feed intake, we get to manage their movements, we get to manage how much manure goes down on the grass to regrow it so we don't have to use those synthetic fertilizers. We get to manage predators, hawks, owls, skunks, fox. We have all that stuff that from time to time we'll get past the dogs and we'll catch them in here trying to dig into these chicken tractors. They get shade, they get sun, they get exercise, they are moving, they get fresh grass, they get the best feed possible. But here's the funny thing, and I know you can't smell this through your computer screen, but that's a couple hundred chickens right there. And the guy running the camera can't smell a couple hundred chickens. This is the way it's supposed to be. There's not an issue of too much. This is the right amount. We know how many birds we can run on this amount of pasture grass and keep it healthy. Too little, and you're kind of wasting your resources. Too much, and you're burning them out. Over time, we've figured out what that sweet spot is, and this is the sweet spot. We'll run a batch of a couple hundred every 3.5 weeks, start another batch, and that'll take us through the season, and this grass stays healthy the entire time, all the way up until the first frost happens and the grass dies out. And by that time, we're tired of doing chickens for the season anyway, so we're ready for the break. So they started up there on that side of the pasture, came down, came across this way, and then back up there. So I don't know how visually you want to do it, but you can follow their trail, and each move, each 12-foot move is one day. And you can start going back, and you can typically count back 11 or 12 days, and you can't tell the difference from what's right in front of them from where that was, 10 or 12 days ago.
This is just regular sand. Gives them grit to help them digest their food. And they get some nutritional yeast for some vitamins and minerals. These are big birds. Trade you. What's that little one? Oh, there she is. Okay. Hey, guys, look. There's another buffet. Gooch over. Make room. Make room. Fatty coming in.
So this is Gus. He's super happy that you're here. He seems a little lethargic because he works the night shift. Before the dogs, we had problems with skunks, fox, javelina, coyotes, mountain lions. We've lost poultry to pretty much all of it. The dogs have the full run of the 50 acres and they just run around all night. They probably do 3 to 5 miles of running every night. It's more of a halo that they leave between urine and their poop. Just kind of keeps things deterred. Unfortunately, some things do make it inside the fence. It's amazing how they can take a 40-pound coyote and make it 16 feet long. You find parts and pieces all morning long. Rabbits, skunks, they eat them all. Our losses have dropped down into single-digit percentages with having the dogs here, as well as the cats that we have. They're super friendly. They're good with humans for the most part. They're great with animals unless you don't introduce them correctly. So we can bring in a baby chick, introduce it to Gus, and he just knows right away, okay, I'm here to protect this. But if a dog comes on the property or something that they haven't been introduced to, they're probably going to eat it. They're Anatolian Shepherd and Great Pyrenees mix, so they're just mutts. The amount of training that we had to do was minimal. They just, something in their DNA just kind of tells them what to do and how to do it. They're pretty efficient. This one is Maggie. She's not as kind-hearted as Gus. A customer shows up and has a dog with them that we don't know about. Dog jumps out of the truck or the car. Maggie's right there to take care of business, and things get violent pretty quick. So these birds can't live on just grass alone. In order to grow them out correctly and give them the size and the muscle tone, they have to have a certain amount of protein in their diet. One of our biggest challenges is finding good quality protein mash for them, and then figuring out over the years what it is that they take. We're doing this at 5,300 foot elevation on a bird that really was never meant to go over 4,000 foot elevation. And over the years, we've just found the right protein mix and how to back that down, keep them happy and healthy, and then availability of feed. through COVID and, weird supply chain issues, constantly having to pivot and, be 3 steps ahead of everybody to make sure that we have the feed and that it's fresh. So they get fed out in the morning. They have grass in the evening as their salad bar before they go to bed. So the pigs, probably my favorite part of this whole deal. I love their personalities and what they do for us. Everything's set up portable. That's electric fencing. It's 8,000 volts. They learn real quick. Once they hit it, they don't want anything to do with it. You can put them anywhere you want on the property. You don't need big fencing. You don't need big infrastructure. Their little pig house is movable. This is how we prep the ground for the pasture grass. There's no part of this beautiful grass that these pigs haven't been on. Different batches that we do. So right now they're digging everything up, lots of manure. This will be very easy just to throw seed on, water it, and it'll be beautiful grass. The next time we'll just move them over and then they can, redo that grass. So we just keep moving them around. Personalities are fantastic. One of the best things that we decided to do for our family is to get out of the veggie business. We just couldn't make it pencil out. So having the pigs as a backup, so any of the vegetables that we grow that we don't eat, they go right to these guys. They love it. We don't have any waste. They just turn it right into manure. Again, kind of a closed loop system. That's pretty exciting.
They're like, we don't want veggies, we want eggs.
And just like the chickens, they need their certain amount of protein. We kind of tag team them. They distract them with the food, and then I go in with the pig feed. The pigs get to be pigs. They get to root around, dig around, get plenty of exercise. They get mud holes to stay cool. Typically lots of shade. Pretty good life for a pig. And because the infrastructure is portable, if we want to do bigger batches, all we do is just set the post at different lengths and just give them more room.
They don't realize they have the fountain already. Come on. There, now they can mud bath all day. These are the pickiest eating pigs we've had. It does. That works a lot better when the fence is off and you're not getting zapped. So when they get broody like that, we just need to make sure we keep her off of them.
They're excited for breakfast. So these steers are being finished out for customers that wanted their beef finished out on grain. So we're using a milled feed, specially designed just for our needs and the kind of finish that we want. So they're just about at butcher weight, probably have another 30 days or so. These are also our poop makers. These stalls here get cleaned out. This is where the manure comes from to put with the wood chips to make all the compost for the veggies, the garden, all the grasses and whatnot. As we grew out the beef part of this, we were able to start working with other people that had existing facilities that were being unused, which allowed us to purchase more steers, get them fed out, get them delivered to customers without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on more infrastructure. Just all in that spirit of working with other people. The resources are there. A lot of that stuff across the country is being unused. All you got to do is just initiate a conversation with somebody and say, hey, are you interested in working with me? And that's kind of how we grew out the beef program. So we have some customers that prefer grass-fed, grass-finished beef. It's leaner. People say that it's healthier. It's a little bit tougher to do. It takes longer to feed them out. More expensive on our side.
Might be loud.
But it's whatever the customer wants. That's what we're gonna finish out. Our most popular offering is the grain finished beef. Still, there's no antibiotics used. There's no pharmaceuticals, no growth hormones. They get to grow out naturally. A nutritionist put together this mix, gives them great marbling, great flavor, great texture. The difference between grass-fed and finished and grain finished, the grain finished is always going to be easier to cook, a little bit more forgiving, and it's the one that the customers keep coming back to buy. Once you buy a quarter of grass-fed, grass-finished, it's a little bit drier, not as exciting to keep explaining to your guests in your company as to why it's so lean and whatnot. So we feel like we found a real nice mix on something that makes you a hero when you're standing in front of the smoker, or the grill, and still being able to make all your friends and family happy as well. One thing that we started doing a while ago is we'll do a grass-fed, grass-finished steer just for ground beef. And we grind the entire steer. So we don't pull any of the premium cuts out. So your brisket, your tenderloin, all your chuck, everything stays in. And we found that it gives a quality and a flavor more like the grain finished, but it gives them the option of having the grass-fed, grass-finished. So if they want to get the super clean protein in them, that's always a great way to go. They can't tell that it's grass-fed, grass-finished just because we leave all the fatty cuts in there. Ends up being about 90-10 on the fat content. It's one of our most popular sellers. Hey, Booger. This guy likes to get your hand caught in between the rails. and crush your fingers. So people might have a misconception when they hear grass-fed, grain-finished, that you're just pouring nothing but grain to them, when in fact, when it's done correctly, you're still giving them all the hay or the alfalfa or teff or whatever it is your program is, and that you just mill in your grains. And it's not a lot. Here's what it looks like. You can see the ratio of flaked and steamed corn in with the alfalfa, and there's some other minerals put in there, a little bit of molasses, but that's not too much. What you're trying to do is keep them happy and healthy throughout the process. And that's where working with the nutritionist and working with a bunch of people that have done this way longer than we have, it helps. You'll find so many people that are willing to talk with you about this stuff when you just kind of walk in and say, really don't know what I'm doing. This is what I would like to accomplish. You know, are you willing to help me? We have literally found nobody that said, no, I don't want to help you. Everybody just kind of jumps on board and, you know, they want to see you do it right. Yeah, we've been doing this since 2015. So our program has changed a bunch of times over the years. The last couple of years, we've kind of settled in with what we're doing. We know it works. We know what the gains are. We know what the finished product looks like. Keeps the customers happy, keeps the cows happy. So it feels really good to be here at this point, you know, after that many years. Butchers. The more customers around Arizona and the country support families like ours, the more availability to the small butchers we're going to have instead of these big operations. It is one of our biggest problems. One of the things that we face is butcher appointment availability. So we've been doing this so long, and enough of them, that all of our butcher schedule dates were scheduled out for an entire year and a half at this point. That took years to develop those relationships and get to a point where we can take care of our customers on a regular basis instead of the sporadic phone call from the butcher. Hey, I just had something open up. Hopefully you have a beef that's finished or close to being finished. The more support you give to the local guy, the more of these small cut shops that are going to open or stay open. We do have to use a state inspected processor because we sell ground beef in individual packages, and it's just hard to get in with them. We need probably 2 or 3 more around the state, if not more. If there were more butchers available, more families like ours would step into this arena, and you would have more consistent pricing, you would have more consistent availability. It seems like these days food availability is becoming an issue. Start spending your money with the people that are doing this, you know, right here in Arizona, and it's going to be better for everybody. When you're finishing beef at this level, it's pretty precise. I mean, it's down to the pound as to what you add in at the mill to the feed that they're getting, as far as the amount of corn or minerals or whatever that particular mix calls for. Pretty hard to do it without a bunch of big expensive equipment. Every 2 weeks we drive to the mill and we have them make just a fresh hot load just for us for what it is that we want to finish on, and that's a 200-mile round trip. All that adds to the final expense. When you see the price of diesel go up to $6 a gallon, that affects everything. Not just the cost of the feed getting to the mill, but guys like me going to get the feed so we can finish out the steers. Just some of the stuff that we're up against, you know, when people question, you know, when you're above $11 a pound for, you know, beef. Grass-fed, grain-finished, looks like that. And grass-fed, grass-finished means that we only put them on grass. They're on grass hay right up until their finish date. Grass-fed, grain-finished, and grass-fed, grass-finished. When done right, they're both healthy, delicious. It's just personal preference. We do both. If a customer wants grass-fed, grass-finished, then that's what we do for them. We do explain the differences. It's just most of our customers prefer the grass-fed, grain-finished at this point.
As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.
A lot of people have cats as pets, which we love. We're cat lovers, so they do serve that purpose. But the main purpose here for us is rodent control. We have mice and lizards and snakes and rabbits, as cute as they are. They eat the garden, and we don't like that. So these are kitties in training. They're about ready to go out and roam on their own. We've already got adult cats here that kill everything you can imagine. It's really necessary, or you would lose your garden. And being in the middle of the desert, you probably would have them living in your house, and that's a no-no for me. Like spiders. If they're outside, they're fine. So yeah, we have lots of kitties. We'll never be without cats and dogs. They are our predator control, even the flies. They're just born to chase things, everything. And luckily they know what to do, because I don't know what that would look like if I had to train a cat to chase a mouse. They're just smart and cute. Oh, I love you. Sad part about up here is they're killing predators, but then they also, you stand the chance of them being taken out by a predator. And we luckily so far have not had that happen. It would be a sad day for sure, but it's part of reality when you have a barn cat.
These are our squash beds. We have yellow squash, zucchini, the patty pan, and then acorn. And as you can see, they kind of have a mind of their own. They start to vine all over the place. So you tend to have to maneuver them as they grow, or they will literally take over the high tunnel. Over here we have tomatoes. Got variations of snacker tomatoes, yellows, big juicy reds. Right here, we're gonna have our vining beans, and as well as eggplant and a couple of broccoli. I planted this sunflower seed in January of this year. I should cut it down before it presses its way through the high tunnel, but I'm waiting for it to open up, hopefully in the next week, so I can at least see my marvelous beauty that I planted. These are our onions. As you can see here, we've pulled them, they're done. They're gonna sit out here now and dry for 3 to 4 days, and then we'll go ahead and take them indoors where we can just eat them. This is my bed of turnips. We actually just had to replant. We try to stagger them so we have new growth at all times, because as soon as we, eat these ones are ready to harvest now. So as soon as we start pulling these and eating these, obviously we want to be able to have a new set of growth to eat off of the next. Flowers, we bring the flowers in just to bring the pollinators in. So they're also beautiful. Who doesn't like flowers? We've got beets. We are a big fan of beets, beet juice, pickling beets. So you're gonna see a lot of those throughout the high tunnel. We got our carrots here. These are not quite ready yet. Carrots tend to take quite a while before you can eat them, but they are delicious when they're fresh. More tomatoes, broccoli. We have sprinkled in some onion here. As you go, you kind of learn different companion plants to put with other plants that just help with the soil. So that's why we've got some onions in with these. Over here, we just got some more flowers, tomatoes, and in the squash family, we have honeydews. This is another yellow squash. As you can see, they are just gonna start to take over as well. We've got one guy in here that I've been coming in and checking every day. He's getting close, but he's not quite there yet. Just waiting to harvest him. Again, big on beets, radishes. They're not as big as I would like them, but these are actually ready. We could take these in now, clean them up, throw them in our salad for dinner tonight, actually. That might be a great idea. So we'll grab some of these. And then, as you can see, even the next layer is already ready to eat. So we could eat these within the next couple weeks, and we've already got backup here ready to go. This is the most peaceful place on the property. I moved out here from the city, and I literally came here because I wanted to slow down and just bring more peace into my life. I walked in these doors 2 days after being here, and my peace just flooded me. So this is where I would live if I could. I'd set up a little cot in here and add in monsoon season, and yeah, I could just stay in here all day. And then we got 2 other squash plants here, again, just for backup. Those ones were started earlier. These ones we started about 3 weeks ago, and they're already going crazy, so those will be ready once we've harvested all of those. The beauty of having your own garden is every night I come up here, whatever is ready to harvest, we pick it, and that's what we use for dinner. So let's go. These are yellow sun sugar tomatoes. So these are nice to throw on a salad, as well as these. So we're having salad tonight for sure. I just harvested these last night for dinner, so we don't have anything ready on our yellow squash yet. Those beans aren't ready. We'll do an onion, grilled onions with our steak. Again, can't go wrong there. Some beans. And let's do some green beans. Look at those. These are delicious. Chop the onion up, put some bacon in them, fry them in a pan. The best green beans you've ever had. Problem is you need a lot of them.
This is kind of the heartbeat of the property is our water system. It's 20,000 gallons of storage up at the top of the property that gives us all of our gravity-fed water pressure so we can irrigate grasses and high tunnel and gardens and whatnot. It's got its own overflow drain system so it doesn't wipe out all the dirt work that we had to do to laser level everything. We keep bees couple different points of the property just for pollination. There's one of the boxes over there. They've got available water and whatnot. Something about permaculture is probably the relationships that you build with other people. That's what permaculture is the relationship with the earth, what you have available to you, other people. So those relationships made it possible for us to build a business. We had 13 beehives here at one time. And our relationships with our neighbors was pretty terrible because they were constantly complaining about all of our bees on their bird feeders, their chicken feeders. We had to figure something else out. Well, didn't take long to figure out that there's people that are willing to lease property that's just completely being unused, that they might have water holes or whatever. So now we just have a couple hives here on our property, keeps everything manageable, makes you a good neighbor. We can have as many hives as we want on all these different areas. Close enough to us to work, still far enough away that they're not a problem for the people that you have to live next to. So this is 20,000 gallons of storage, and it's just a charge line system. So we have a well down at the bottom of the property that pumps the water up in a 2-inch main line, just a quarter mile to get to this point here. And it's about 85, 87 feet higher than what the well is, which mathematically gives us about 40 PSI of pressure at all of our sprinklers down at the pasture grass. All the tanks are set with a laser at the same height, and they fill and drain at the same time. Each one has a separate valve that you can shut them down if you need to service something. And then there's one main shut off just in case there's a leak downline there. So the ladder just lets me look into one tank so I can check the level. You see this wire here, it's a quarter-mile wire continuous all the way down to the pump controller. There's a float inside this tank that tells the pump controller, hey, turn on, we need more water. It's all solar powered. It's completely dummy proof right to the overflow system. If we have a pump control failure and it keeps pumping, it doesn't wipe everything out. All this drains out toward the back and then down the hill. And we periodically come up here and check on it. But honestly, in the couple years that this system has been up and running, there's been zero issues, zero problems. I could probably just stop coming here and I'd be fine. This is the water that we live on. We drink it, we don't filter it. It's from a deep well that's 379 feet deep. The well produces 100 gallons a minute, if not a little bit more. The system, it irrigates all the pasture grass, provides water for all the animals, for the high tunnel, the gardens, everything that we need. This is our big insurance policy. It might seem to be overkill to have 20,000 gallons in storage there, but when you have tens of thousands of dollars worth of animals and $5,000 or $6,000 worth of vegetables in production at any given time, if you have an issue with water, things start dying really, really fast. With 20,000 gallons, if we have a pump failure or a solar failure or whatever, this is a big insurance policy. We have enough water to last us for days into weeks. That's why we spent all the money on doing it this way. We just wanted to be kind of bulletproof when it came to that stuff. So we don't actually use this much water. Everything's on drip lines. We've got flow meters on all the sprinklers. I mean, we know exactly what it takes to irrigate the pastures without overwatering it, underwatering it. We use probes and sensors to know exactly what it's going to take. Just because we have a great well doesn't mean that we want to burn through all the water. That's part of permaculture. You take care of what you have. You just don't waste things. I don't know that they're real exciting to look at. It's a lot of money sitting there. Back when we did it was before COVID, where each tank was $900 a piece, and that was all the money to us. Driving through Home Depot's parking lot, each one of those tanks is $2,500 now. All of the plumbing that runs through the center is all done and galvanized, and it's all buried 3 feet deep. So just building that manifold, all those parts and pieces, it's thousands of dollars. So there's just so much that happens that you never see. Everything's underground, But when you're building it for long term, kind of the permaculture way of doing things, you know, whole design system, you got to spend the money to do it right. You don't want to come back and have to repair this stuff later, which we've literally had to do. In fact, I can show you that. These are the first 4 tanks that we had that sat on this pad. When we first got here, we had a neighbor just kind of cut in a little pad with the tractor, threw some sand on it, dug a trench in front of it, did all of our plumbing, and he recommended that we do it all in rigid plumbing. And he's a guy that's been out here for a long time, so we just kind of trusted what he said. And man, it sure worked good for a long time, and it worked good right up until it didn't work anymore. Over time, because the pad wasn't level and we're built on a hill, before all this drainage was put in here, the water would sheet down and it would just kind of erode away at the base of these tanks. Well, then we had that pump control failure, which is why we now have this. So what happened, the pump control failed, didn't tell the pump to turn off, the tanks overflowed, and you can see the mineral that was left from the water that was coming down came down to the bottom of the tank, and it just eroded everything away. That rigid piping put a bunch of pressure on the tanks, and you probably get a close-up of this. This is the fitting that they come with, and of course it even tells you a flexible connection required here, but we didn't listen because, you know, we're smarter than everybody else. That's the fitting that's normally there. Because this tank was sitting at such an angle with that rigid pipe for so long, it broke. It just stress cracked everything. So instead of replacing a now $2,500 tank, we bought a $450 bulkhead fitting and cut all of the damaged part out, and we're able to save the tank. But this is the stuff that happens when you don't do it right. This is the stuff that happens when you don't have a plan going into it and you don't follow instructions. So when we redid it, it was pretty expensive, but we redid it with engineered plans, and now we feel like we're pretty well bulletproof and we don't have to worry about something like this happening again. You look out, what a fantastic view that this place had, and we were enamored with it when we first had the opportunity to buy the property. We thought, how cool. And then you realize how tough it is to live on the side of a mountain and to do anything. And that's where permaculture really helped us out. And we were able to put together a plan that would address a lot of drainage issues. We get monsoon storms here that'll dump an inch of rain in 20 minutes, and it'll just sheet down the hill and it'll just wreck things. So if you look back here, this was very intentional. This is a big diversion swell. It's not meant to capture water, but it's meant to divide the water as it comes down the hill and shoot it that way and shoot it that way, so the pad can still live after our big storms that we have every year. Again, we didn't have this in place before we started learning about permaculture and dirt works and diversions and whatever. And we paid the price. It cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. When somebody suggests, you know, hey, spend $1,000 and take this online course from Jeff Lawton or one of these other guys, and it sure sounds expensive. I'll tell you what, that $1,000 has saved us tens of thousands of dollars. It's hard to quantify the money that you save by doing this stuff right. You know, we're not all contractors. We're not all in the business of doing this stuff, but we have that spirit of we want to do it ourselves. And those permaculture courses, they're worth their weight in gold. It's a great investment for anybody. Right about down here is when we finally got a backhoe. All the rest of that up there was done with an old ditch witch, shovels, picks, a borrowed jackhammer. Pretty miserable, but I guess you could say we paid our dues. That's more diversion swell. Takes all the water from top of the property and diverts it out toward the state land instead of mucking out all the stuff that we're working on. And it leaves this pad that we built for the solar pretty well alone. So being out off grid, it's actually pretty cool. A lot of freedom. Get to do a lot of what you want to do, and it's actually not as expensive as what you might think. I'm not going to say that it's cheap, but it's a good value. The more people that want to move away from the city and live a different life, the further out that you have to go. You can't buy 50 acres in Huntington Beach. You can't buy 50 acres in any town anywhere unless you've just got mountains of cash, which we didn't. So looking around, we're pretty far out, pretty terrible climate actually. The property was pretty inexpensive back in 2013. One of the downsides is there was no power lines coming to the area. We got a quote from the power company for anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000 to bring power to the property. I guess you're blessed with being able to make a monthly payment for the electric service. Solar is the answer. We worked with Northern Arizona Wind and Sun out of Flagstaff. It was kind of the premier with this stuff, and they designed the whole system. I want to say all in, we're probably $55,000 into everything. We did do a lot of the work ourselves, hired some of it out, but we have everything that everybody else in town has. 2 air conditioners, washer, dryer. We don't want for anything, and we don't have a monthly bill. We just basically pay our monthly bill up front. And we don't have power outages either. Power outages in this area are pretty common. We've never had one. We've never had any issue. This is just under 4,000 watts. You would think that you would need a larger array, but the lithium batteries that we use take a charge so fast, you just don't need the huge arrays that just take up, half an acre like you used to. Technology is really making this stuff possible and affordable, for families like ours. So all of your solar is faced south. We faced ours a little bit to the southwest because we do get hot up here, which means that we run the air conditioner later into the afternoon, into the evening. So we want the last possible charge that we can. And just like those big water tanks that we have up top as an insurance policy, we have big battery banks. We have 3 very large lithium batteries. On a day like today, where we're running the AC because it's warm out, it's humid, but the cloud cover, this thing is not producing much power right now. Yet air conditioners running on the house, you don't hear a generator running or anything like that. When you build the system correctly, when you design it and execute it the way that it really should be done, instead of doing piecemeal or, well, maybe I can get by with this, maybe I can get by with that. Again, getting back to permaculture, it's a design. It's something that you put a lot of thought into. And the minute you start cutting corners on something, the holes start to show up. And then you're using more fossil fuels to run generators. I guess one thing I learned about permaculture is it is probably the best forced delayed gratification that a guy can come across. Anytime you don't do it right up front, you're gonna redo it again. Promise you this. I have not found a way to beat that. We're 9 years into this project, and we've just learned through the smaller projects that when it comes to the bigger projects, you are time and money ahead to just do it right from the get-go, which means waiting longer to do it, saving your money. And that also means not looking for the best deals or the cheapest components or whatever. Some of the homesteaders out there do amazing things with pallets and junk, and they make a world happen and work and whatever. We wanted something more than that. We wanted the modern day conveniences, but with the freedoms that come with the responsibility of having to build something like this. You don't skip on your power source. You don't skimp on your water source. That's just stuff that we've learned. Anybody who's teaching permaculture, whether it's design or dirt work or execution or whatever, it always comes back to the same. It's the inputs that make the 20 and 30-year projects work. It's all the stuff that you do up front. And we just applied those principles to stuff like this. We don't lay awake at night worried about the batteries. There's plenty of battery there. We can actually go a couple days with cloudy skies like this. Then we even sized the backup generator correctly to where it'll take the batteries from 20% to 90% in 55 minutes. That doesn't use a lot of propane. We probably have enough propane to get us through for years if we had really bad weather all the time. So anyway, you face it south-southwest because your sun rises there in the summertime, runs over like that, and in the wintertime, down low. So this is a fixed panel position, and you're just doing the best of both worlds. You're just trying to average out how the sun's going to hit it. It's not always perfect. If you have somebody good designing it for you, they can figure out your sun hours. They know all this stuff. All this data is available. This is not black magic anymore. There's guys that you can call, again, Northern Arizona Wind and Sun. Those guys know this stuff off the top of their head. You tell them what your power usage might be, and they design a system. You find a good installer. Just so happens that my best friend is one of their installers, so this stuff comes easy to me and to him. You get a good design, put some thought into it. That way you're not having to piece it together and add more and add more and add more and then have it look like just some disaster when you're done with components that don't play well together. And the solar panels bring the energy into this closet here, and a charge controller changes that power into something that the batteries can use and store. The inverter has the ability to pick and choose what it needs when it needs it. Everything is completely automated, completely dummy proof. Once the system was designed and installed, it has literally been maintenance free. There's nothing to do battery-wise. There's nothing to do to maintain any of it. We chose a system that we were able to install indoors, which is why we went with lithium batteries. They come with a manufacturer's paperwork that allows you to get a permit from the county stating that the batteries can be mounted indoors. So we have close to 1,600 amp hours of reserve power, which gets us through whatever we need. Multiple snowy days, overcast, cloudy. Past that, we do have a backup generator that has very few hours on it. The system is robust. It just takes care of all of our needs at a fraction of the cost of, going through the power company. So these batteries are the same thing that your smartphone has, and they can be drained down to 10% without being hurt. Big difference from the lead acid that if you go down below 50%, you're running into trouble and you're starting to hurt the batteries. So these things are designed to be fully discharged, and then they can rapidly recharge, much like your iPhone or your smartphone. This is just a bigger version of it. Each battery has its own computer that controls the charge rate, pays attention to temperature, discharge. It'll shut the battery off, at a preset level. They're pretty sophisticated, but when you put a system together where everything works together, everything talks to each other, it's virtually maintenance free. So we're coming up on 4 years now of zero issues, zero outages, no downtime, and enough power to run air conditioners and washer dryer. We live like we live in the city. We don't have to worry about shutting a bunch of lights off. We don't have to worry about not making coffee in the coffee maker at 10 o'clock at night if we need to, or 2 o'clock in the morning because we're getting low on power. We have enough for everything that we need. So everywhere around here that you look, these clearings, where the solar is, where the house is, all this was trees. If you look up in that tree line up there, you can see how thick and how dense all that stuff was. Anywhere there's a clearing, that was Amy and I with chainsaws cutting stuff down, and we figured out pretty quick that it would make really good animal bedding if we could chip it. So we bought a Vermeer chipper, and this is what those trees, when they come down, what's not good for firewood just runs right through that chipper. And that provides us all of our animal bedding that we need for the pigs, for the cows, and also mulch for the garden, use it for walkways and whatnot. Stuff's actually pretty expensive if you had to go into town to buy it, so it's nice to have that. It's like a pretty big asset for us. With the steers that we keep here on the property, one of their main jobs is just making poop, and they're really good at making poop. When you put steer manure and juniper chips together, you get a pretty good pile of compost. So this stuff here probably has another 15-20 days to go. It's just now starting to cool down. It's ready to be turned again one last time. But that is nothing more than our steer manure and our wood chips. And that's the compost that all the veggies are grown in. That's what we put back on the grasses that we grow for the birds. Kind of a closed loop system. When you have steers that you're finishing for customers in a more confined space to minimize the calories that they're burning and to really control what they're eating, to give you that good finished product, a lot of times you have this big mountain of manure that you have to deal with. So you're exporting stuff off of your farm. We decided that that wasn't a good fit for us. So we found something to do with all that manure by turning it right back into stuff that we could use for the gardens and the grasses. Juniper drops a pitch, the little small leaves underneath it, that choke out the grasses and the weeds and whatnot. So you would think that maybe that would be an issue when you're trying to grow something, and we found that not to be the case. When you cook it down in compost, it ends up being just fine. Something else about juniper is that it is acidic, which helps when you have an alkali soil like we have out here in the middle of nowhere, which is basically just rock and clay. It actually helps to drop the pH down, which all the veggies, truly enjoy. We were told in the beginning that our compost wouldn't work. 9 years later, we've got the pasture grasses to prove it, and the gardens, and we don't run to town and buy bags of compost or whatever it is that the nurseries sell. We just grow the stuff that grows in our own compost. The views are fantastic, but all the good stuff ends right there. Everything's a challenge. As you can tell, it rains. It doesn't rain a lot. It doesn't rain year round. We get most of our rain during the monsoon seasons in July in the summer, and it'll drop an inch of rain in 20 minutes. It's pretty violent. It's pretty brutal. If you look behind me, you'll see the different dirt works that we've had to do to take that watershed and push it away from things that we value, like the high tunnel, like our house, like the eventual pond. it took an 80,000 pound machine to actually dig this stuff in. We're on rock. You don't just do this with shovels. You don't do it with small equipment. So it doesn't look like much now that the weeds have kind of grown in, and it looks more natural now than it ever has. But there's a lot of engineering and a lot of thought put into that. Again, that goes right back to any good permaculture course is going to have a huge section on dirt work and water diversion, slopes. Water is the most violent force in nature, and I've seen it in my own mistakes. Things just fall apart quick if you don't have that under control. And that's just a small portion of how we've pushed the water away from everything that we value, everything that we actually work every day. So in permaculture, a swale is something that is cut in on whatever grade that you're at. So in other words, if it's 400 feet elevation here, all the way down the line over here, it's still 400 foot. And that is supposed to catch water and hold it and let it go back into the ground. When you're on the side of a hill like this and you have bad monsoons, it's almost impossible to manage something like that. So our only option really was to divert water. So it's still the shape of a swale, same size and whatnot, but it's off contour and it pushes the water into natural ravines and waterways. So it just gets rid of that watershed instead of holding it in one spot in hopes that it's just going to seep back into the ground. It could get overwhelmed pretty quick, with an inch of rain in 20 minutes. There's just not enough time for it to soak into the ground. So this catches everything off of here and it puts it right down this ditch. So I guess in layman's terms, call it a ditch, call it a diversion, call it whatever you want. Water comes down that hillside, hits this, and it starts making its way down there. So it stops that flow of water from crossing this road and wiping that out. And that's cut all the way to the edge of our property and just pushes it out to state land, which has a neat effect of all those trees have grown quite nice because of all the extra water that they get. And then on this side of the road, it starts to catch it from here and again runs right around that berm. Probably take us forever to walk over there. So this one's cut in a little bit more aggressively because of how the land lays out. It's got a lot more watershed that's going to hit this thing. And when it runs, it's pretty impressive. You can see some bits and pieces of our road ends up in here, and it pushes it down that channel all the way to a natural ravine, and it keeps that high tunnel nice and safe. It keeps that water from coming down and just wiping that whole hill out, which it would. This is one of those situations where I could say we're actually trying to fight nature. Nature's wanting that water to go somewhere in particular. We're doing our best to slow that water down. You're not going to stop it completely. You're always going to have some sort of maintenance. You just do what you can. If you fight Mother Nature too hard, she's going to win every single time. So we are gently persuading Mother Nature, hey, take your water and just put it over there. A little bit might spill over, but it takes a lot of work to gently persuade Mother Nature to do anything. But it also takes a lot of work to build something. You want to have it in production when you want it in production. That's all the planning that goes into it. What are you going to do with this water, when the 100-year flood comes? Well, hopefully you have some plans. And I think we've got some good plans. It's worked so far. Pound for pound, there is no more efficient way to produce protein than a pond. Having live fish, it just doesn't get any better. Plus you have the byproduct of being able to irrigate live pond water to trees or whatever it is you want to grow down below. So we started working on this back in 2016. It's a pretty large pond built with a keyway. Again, all permaculture teachings. 5 foot wide trench, 5 foot deep. Fill it with clean clay, compact it, and build it up in lifts as the shell comes up. That's a lot of work, that's a lot of labor. It's just something that you can't rush. This is kind of our crown jewel. Always wanted to have a fishing hole right in my front yard, and this is gonna be it someday. Probably still a year away from finishing it. We're working at the state and federal level to figure out what you can and can't do. Again, permaculture means you're working with everything instead of trying to fight it. Everybody hears horror stories about a guy that'll spend a bunch of money building a pond, and then the feds come in and say, hey, you're blocking a federal waterway, you can't do this, yada, yada, yada. We went through all the steps, hundreds of hours of phone calls to understand truly what we can and cannot do. And for us, in our situation, it has to be off contour. It can't have any runoff water going into it. The final dirt work will divert any rainwater runoff around both sides, which the other good thing about that is you're not changing the water chemistry. In a big rainfall, one of our monsoons, if you add water actually running into the pond, it's going to change everything about the ecosystem that you built, and it's going to change it in about a half hour. So your fish are going to suffer, your aquatic plants are going to suffer. You might overfill it and blow out a side. So there's a lot of thought that goes into building a pond like this, and the way we're doing it. There's just so much that goes into the planning stages. Like anything permaculture, the more you put in up front, all the inputs really directly affect what the final output is. And this is something that I want to be alive for 20, 30, 40 years. When it's finished, it'll have a bentonite clay lining, and then it'll be stocked with fish from a fishery that, we've already discussed the details as to what they'll put in there. One day I picture teaching my granddaughter how to fish right out in the front yard, and on a regular basis having just kind of a family day. Hey, on Sunday we're having fish for dinner, so Saturday let's spend the morning fishing and get everything, kind of ready to go. Plus being able to showcase and show other people what it is that you can do with a little ingenuity and some hard work. Again, anybody can do this stuff. You just have to really want to do it. And you have to be patient enough to go through the process and the steps and to do everything correctly. To have our customers come up and, have a day where they can fish and, help us keep it healthy by pulling out a certain number of fish, that would be pretty cool. Not many people get to say they can fish right in their front yard. One day this is going to be 6 feet of water that I'm standing in, boulders, trees, aquatic life, fish. Should be pretty awesome. Might just look like a big hole in the front yard, but one day it will be a pond.
Hire us to tell your story. As an independent team of filmmakers, we love producing documentaries for artisans of all trades, honoring skill, passion, and determination.
The fruits of our labor literally creates happiness.
Founded in 2020, we harness our collective experience and enthusiasm for storytelling to deliver content that resonates with viewers on every level.
Think big and think outside of the box.
We avoid the constant noise of clickbait news and outrage headlines, instead crafting more intimate narratives that touch on the purpose of life itself. Stories that not only inform but also inspire, whether it's the art of agriculture, the science of fermentation, an innovative garage startup, or the intricacies of off-grid living. We're here to explore it all and invite you to join us in the discovery.
You're just working with what you have at hand instead of having unrealistic expectations.
We know the world is brimming with hidden stories waiting to be told. These are tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
The biggest thing is to realize that there's nothing that you can't do.
Embodying the American spirit that with hard work, dreams really can come true. So whether you're a garage baker, homegrown mycologist, backyard farmer, or off-grid homesteader, send us a message and share your story with the world.